$17 per hour minimum wage in the United States. The new bill just introduced today. I have all the details and exactly what you need to know right here in the video, so let's get right into it. All right, now in this video, I do want to share with you all the details of the new bill that was just introduced today to raise the federal minimum wage up to $17 per hour from the current level of $7.25. That would be nearly a $10 per hour increase to the federal minimum wage. Let's get into it and talk through all these details. So this was just introduced today by Bernie Sanders, who is an independent senator out of the state of Vermont. Now, he came out 2 years ago in 2021, and he was pushing for a $15 per hour federal minimum wage. Now, obviously, at the time, that did not happen, but now, as of today, he is now out talking about a $17 per hour federal minimum wage, okay? Here's why. He's suggesting that we need $2 more per hour because of inflation and rapidly rising prices. Now, I do want to talk about some discrepancies here for just a second, and then I'm going to get into more of the details about this. Here's what's interesting about this. Now, obviously, last year in 2022 and so far this year, inflation has been very, very high, right? So last year, inflation was about 8+% on a month-over-month or on a monthly basis, and again on a year-over-year basis, inflation was very high. Throughout the main course of last year, inflation was well over 8% for the most of last year. Now, obviously, not the entire year, but most of last year, it was well over 8%. Now, this year, it has been pretty high as well, 5.5%, 6% for most of this year so far. Obviously, we're only a few months into the year as of right now. But here's what's interesting about this. If we run the math on this, $17 per hour versus $15 per hour, don't get me wrong, that would be awesome, right? It would help out a lot of people in a major way. But this is a 13.33% increase over $15 from 2 years ago. But wait, they've been telling us that inflation is only 8%, 8.7%, but yet the raise here would be 13.33%. Does anybody smell a rat? I do. You know what I mean? So what Bernie Sanders is telling us is that real inflation is probably more along the lines of, 13 to 13.33%, somewhere along those lines based on the federal minimum wage as far as what he's talking about here. And again, I think we can all recognize the numbers that they're reporting to us as far as real inflation is probably significantly higher than what they're actually reporting. But anyway, I don't want to go off on too much of a rant here talking about this. I just wanted to point that out because that is a major discrepancy and something that I think all of us have probably recognized. But here's what's interesting about this new bill and the introduction today out of Bernie Sanders, okay? Now, here's what's interesting. Across the entire country, there are 29 states who actually have a higher minimum wage in their states. So 29 states. That means 21 states out there do not have a higher minimum wage. In other words, they're still locked into the $7.25 per hour federal minimum wage. Now, there are, like I said, 29 states that have a higher minimum wage in their states. It could be $15 an hour. It could be $12. It could be somewhere along those lines, but it's significantly higher than the $7.25 per hour as the federal minimum wage. Either way, this would be a major, major increase for millions of people out there who are barely getting by right now and really struggling. Now, here's another thing too as well. This would not only impact those people out there receiving a $7.25 per hour wage right now as a result of this. This would basically sweep up anybody who's under $17 an hour. So the person earning $10 an hour, it includes them. $12 an hour, it includes them. $13.50, it includes them. How about $15 or $16 an hour? It would include all of these people. This would include millions upon millions of people out there who are receiving anything less than $17 per hour right now. So again, would that be massive? That would be massive, right? This would be huge, huge stuff right now. However, to be fair, let's talk about the details of this really fast. And would this actually be likely in order to pass through Congress and actually turn into law? Now, that's another question, okay? Here's what's interesting. 2 years ago, in 2021, when Bernie Sanders was coming out pushing for the $15 per hour, they were very much hardlined on a no on that one, okay? Remember that? That was a major issue. It was actually included into one of the bills back then, one of the major packages that was actually passed in 2021, the American Rescue Plan. It was supposed to be in that. Didn't make it. They took it out at the last minute, okay? There were other bills out there as well that they passed here over the last couple of years that this was supposed to be included into. It didn't happen. So my point is, even though Bernie Sanders is making a big deal about this and he is trying to get the $17 per hour federal minimum wage passed here in the United States, it may be a little bit of a struggle, okay? So again, I never want to be here and promise anything unless I know for sure that it will be happening. Again, this was just introduced, okay? Now here's the thing. This is a nice thing. I mean, it would help out a lot of people in a really big way, right? But just because it's introduced does not necessarily mean that it's going to pass through Congress and that it's going to turn into law here in the United States, okay? They can introduce anything that they want in Congress. We also recognize that they do introduce a lot of different things. Just because it's introduced does not necessarily mean it's going to turn into law. But at least it's a starting point, and at least it is somewhere for them to start negotiating, and maybe they can, go from there. And again, like I've talked about before in all the videos, anytime you enter into a negotiation, whatever you want, whether you want a low price on something or you want something like this, a higher wage for individuals, you always start kind of out at the extremes of the ends, right? So like for a negotiation, let's say you're trying to buy a $10,000 car. Maybe you offer them $7,000 or something like that, You kind of start low and you try to meet somewhere in the middle or thereabout. Anyway, that's what I try to do when I negotiate, which by the way, I don't go into lowball people on stuff. I'm just simply saying what I try to do is give an offer and then let's meet somewhere in the middle where all of us are happy. You got the price that you wanted. I feel like I got a little bit of a discount. Great. We're all happy, right? It's the same thing with this situation here and Bernie Sanders. He might be thinking, let's start at 17. Maybe we whittle this thing down to say 13 or 14 or 12, somewhere along those lines. We've all won with this thing, right? Even if they break it down to say $12.25 per hour, get that. It would be increasing the federal minimum wage by $5 an hour. It would actually be coming down about $5 from his $17 limit here that he's laying out. So again, meeting in the middle would still give a huge increase to a lot of people. Now, obviously, it's not as good as $17 per hour, but you get my point here, right? So that is something we need to continue watching going forward, as well as this may just be a starting point. Now, maybe they will increase the federal minimum wage. I would anticipate they're going to do that because this $7.25 per hour limit has been in place for a long time, a very, very long time, okay? Now, here's the thing. Would it be time for them to maybe increase the federal minimum wage? Probably. It's very much out of date, and why it hasn't moved here seems very weird, right? I think a lot of us can probably agree. You think that things would be updated with time, right? Especially during this very high inflationary time that we've been living through over the last couple of years. You would think, logically, you'd probably increase wages for a lot of people to keep up with increased prices, increased costs, increased cost of living, all of these things like this. But they haven't done it for the most part with the federal minimum wage. But that's exactly what Bernie Sanders is arguing with this is there's a lot of people out there that are living on, $7.25, $10, $11 per hour. It's really hard to get by like that, especially when you're paying, however much in federal taxes. You're paying state taxes out of that. If you live in a state that has state taxes, you're paying Social Security and Medicare taxes. Before you know it, that $10 per hour that you're getting paid is now $6.50 or maybe $7 if you're lucky, right? So again, it all gets whittled down very, very rapidly. And then there you go. You don't have much left, right? Anyway, we could sit here and talk about this for a couple hours, but this was just introduced today. Wanted to bring it to your attention right away so you can see what's actually going on. And again, I will continue watching this very closely. I would say as of right now, great proposal out of Bernie Sanders, but I would not anticipate this to get passed anytime soon. Again, I know that's probably not what a lot of you want to hear, but I'm being honest with you, okay? I'm giving you my transparent opinion on this. I could be totally wrong. Maybe they pass it next month. I'm not really sure. I would not anticipate that. I would not count on that, but maybe they do. But here's the thing. I would anticipate this is probably just a starting point for Bernie Sanders. This is probably a talking point here to get things going, to stir the pot a little bit, right? Bernie Sanders likes to stir the pot, by the way. It's nothing wrong with that, okay? Nothing wrong with stirring the pot, rattling up a little bit of drama in Congress. Nothing wrong with that at all. And again, we'll have to see how this actually goes and how this whole thing transpires here over the coming days, weeks, and months. But of course, I'll keep you posted on this, and you never know. They will be passing another massive multi-trillion-dollar package later this year. Maybe they'll try to add it into that. Which, by the way, when I say later this year, I'm talking in like 4 months. Okay, so it's not going to take much time here until they actually have to do that next one. Either way, I'll keep you posted. Please make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. Share the video with your friends, family, social media, and go back and check out any of the other thousands of videos here on the channel. Until next time, enjoy your day, take care, and catch you again later.